Good evening. My name is Constable Andre Johnson, and welcome to our next edition of WRPS Talks. We are excited to be We're excited to engage and answer some questions that you may have about Waterloo Regional Police Service. Tonight I'm joined by Chief Bryan Larkin, hi Chief, who would like to share a few words with you before we open it up. Chief?
Thanks, Andre, and good evening, and it's great to be here. And once again, Andre, I'm happy, this is your second round interviewing me, and I'm really excited. And I also know that tonight's a big night. We're both Raptors fans, and I know we're pretty excited about Game 6. And you have a prediction, and your prediction is?
Raptors win Game 6.
Wow, that's great. Well, Andre, listen, first and foremost, I want to thank you for being one of our public information officers. It's an important role within our organization as we continue our efforts to be much more transparent, as well as communicate to news, events that are ongoing within our police service and in our community. I'd also like to thank all of our social media and our online folks for logging in. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have a lot to talk about, but I'll keep it brief so, Andre, we can get into a number of questions as we move forward. And of course, as you know, Andre, you're actually often reporting a lot of the information, you and Constable Dietrich, but we've had a number of busy months. It's hard to believe we're in June. So first, to all of our listeners, happy Pride, as well as it's very important that we're celebrating June as Indigenous Month across Canada. But I'm extremely proud of all the work of our officers and that the work that continues to be done by our frontline team, our investigators, our 911 call operators and communicators, members of our operational support, drugs, firearms, traffic services, all of the different areas. I'm very proud of the great work that they do, not only every single day, but across our great community, our great region. Their demonstration of their commitment to public safety is simply fantastic. You know, obviously we've had some major focus on drug seizures and number of processes there. In particular, the opiate crisis continues to really impact our region. And when you think about this year, here we are halfway into the year, we've already hit almost 500, 490 overdose calls, and tragically 41 people have lost their lives to overdose. Last year we had 55 total, and so we continue to see these numbers increase on a daily basis. This is a crisis that impacts not only Waterloo Region, but our province and our nation. It impacts our neighbors, our family members. And it's very something we're really committed to, is fighting those illicit drug traffickers and the mid-level traffickers. So we continue to do that. This last week, I was very pleased to join a number of police agencies supporting our service around the commercial road safety blitz. We continue to do a significant amount of work around road safety, the annual commercial vehicle blitz, which kicked off this week, and is very important. Last year, 8 people passed away as a result of road fatalities, and already year to date, we've seen 8 fatalities and people lose their lives. And I do believe that collisions are preventable. I do believe that we need to change our road safety and our driving habits as we get ready to launch light rail transit and ION. It's very concerning. In the last 3 weeks, we've had 3 collisions, and all of them involving some form of driver error. And so we, stay tuned for some very much forward commitment around enforcement and et cetera. So very, very important. And of course, Andre, I know you love what you do. You've had an incredible career as a patrol officer in North Division, also working in our school resource officer, and I have a number of principals that are still angry with me that you're now working in public information. But one of the big pieces we're focused on is recruiting. We're growing our organization. This year, the Police Services Board increased and enhanced our budget so we can add more officers to the front line. It's something we're very excited about. But of course, we also have attrition in a number of different pieces, and so we're really committed to recruiting. And so if you're online, please consider checking out wrps.on.ca. As we continue to recruit. But, Andre, this month I'm excited. In fact, I got a couple of people nipping at my heels to become the chief and 2 deputy chiefs. We're welcoming 3 special recruits. We ran our annual police chief for a day, and I'm excited to have Layla, Juliana, and Mahar, who are all winners of our annual police chief for a day contest, and they'll be coming, check out our social media channels. They'll be visiting June 20th, and we'll highlight their visit to police headquarters. I look forward to meeting with them, and quite frankly, I'm really excited for them to take over my job, because some days it's challenging, it's stressful, but more importantly, as you know, I love what I do. I love our organization, I love our members, and I love our community. I think we're doing great things. So what do you think, Andre? Should we fire this up and open it up to some questions?
Absolutely. I think we have our first question now, Chief. So our first question comes from Diane from Kitchener, and she's asking, are you currently hiring, and is it difficult to be hired as an officer?
Well, thanks, Diane, for the question. Yes, we're actively recruiting and we're actively hiring right now. And I would remind people that, you know, it's not difficult, it's not challenging. You have to be committed. So, Diane, I would encourage you to connect and hook up with our recruiting team. And so you can check out online. There's a whole concept and a whole message around recruitment and what it takes. You know, we still have the constable selection system, there's still testing, and there should be a robust entry system into our service. But if you hook up with our recruiting team or come to one of our information nights, so check out our website, check out our social media. We host on a regular basis monthly information recruiting nights. You can come speak to members. You know, Andre, I know you participate in a number of those. Constable Dietrich does, and we have a whole array from across our service. And they'll work with you to get you ready, get you prepared, give you some helpful hints and some helpful tips to join our police service. So, Diane, I hope that you're committed, and we would love to have you a part of our team. So please check out our recruiting site. And I believe that whenever you set your mind to something, you can accomplish it. And our recruiting process is designed around supporting people and getting you through.
Wonderful. And Chief, our next question is from Dave, and Dave is from Cambridge. Dave is wondering what officers are doing to deal with addiction and what the service is doing to end any negative stigma amongst frontline officers towards addiction.
Yeah, well, thank you, Dave, for your question. And addiction is something pretty significant, not only in our community, but as I mentioned earlier, across the province and across our nation. When you look at the challenges of addictions, it's unheard of. The last 3 years, the opiate addiction has had a significant impact on our organization. And so we're not focused on the user, we're not focused on the person that uses. We try to divert and we try to get them supported. Our focus has been on the illicit trafficking. And one of the challenges when you look at 490 overdoses, we're very concerned about safe supply, we're very concerned about illicit drugs, we're very concerned about the trafficker that preys on the vulnerable. And so we realigned our drugs and firearms teams approximately 18 months ago. The 3 urban divisions now have a drugs and firearms team that is very focused very much on local community issues. Last year we set record number of arrests, of charges, of seizures, and that's around illicit trafficking. It's not about the user. We believe that the user should be treated within the public health model, and we should focus on trafficking, et cetera. So the stigma around officers, I mean, I think the culture is very much changing. You know, Dave, I think of 7 years ago, we probably would have never have issued a public advisory that there's a bad batch of drugs in our community. And now, as you know, Andre, regularly we are sharing information with the community, reminding users that if you do use with somebody to have a secondary support system, carry a naloxone kit. And I think that that's pretty unique around the work we're doing. Our partnership with the Water Regional Integrated Drug Strategy. But I'll give you an example of one of the changes around stigma. When, you know, the reality is we do arrest people and they come into our prisoner care and control system. We used to ask a very pointed question. And Andre, you'll remember this from your frontline days, you know, are you an addict? Do you have a drug addiction? Those are pretty hard-hitting questions. And so now our approach, Dave, is we ask, do you use? Have you used? Is there anything we can do about your health that you need help on? And so we changed our process. It's not going to happen overnight, Dave, but I am very committed when I look at the work we're doing. In 50% of those 490 overdoses, frontline officers have administered naloxone and have preserved life and have saved life. And to me, I think that that's an incredible piece. Every police officer carries a naloxone kit, not only to preserve life, but also for their own personal protection. and I think we're on the right direction. We need a coordinated effort. It's happening in our region. We need continued support provincially and nationally from the federal government to make change. This is a complex issue that we're not going to solve overnight, but we're heading down the right road. It's a great question, though. I'm very passionate, as you know, Andre, around addiction and drugs within our community. It's a significant piece. Much of our crime is related to addiction, to the challenges of drugs in society, and there's work to be done around all of those pieces.
Absolutely, great question. Our next question, Chief, is from Rihanna. She wants to know, or she actually wants to be a police officer, and she wants to know what she can do and what does she need to be a police officer.
Well, thanks for the question, Rihanna. And first, congratulations on wanting to be a police officer. I believe that being a police officer is one of the most noblest professions in our community. I believe that it has the opportunity to make a significant difference. Every single day is different. Every single day is challenging, and there are some tough times. And so there's a couple of things. I mean, obviously, we have some basic requirements. You have to be 21 years old. There's a physical fitness component, a written composition test, the whole applicant testing piece to get into policing. One of the things that I encourage you is to, if you're still in school, look at our auxiliary policing program. It's a volunteer-based program. It's fantastic. It gives you a great insight into all the different things that we do as a police service. There's excellent training. But from an educational perspective, Police Foundations is one option, but the reality is that you can pretty much follow your path of interest. And sometimes it's great to have a different academic background. It opens your eyes to many different things. So Police Foundations, we hire a lot of people who have Police Foundations degrees and diplomas. We hire a lot from Conestoga College. But Andre, you're a University of Guelph grad, a proud Griffin, and went the criminal justice route and different routes. So there's many different ways to do that. Policing Foundation isn't the only way to do that. We have members that, have Masters of Social Work. We have engineers. We have a really diverse academic background, but it really has to fit with you. I think to my student days, I did well in stuff I was interested in. If the course was a struggle and I wasn't so interested in it, I struggle a little bit. But I do think that you should consider and follow. So talk to your guidance counselor at high school or talk to other individuals. Police Foundation's a good route, but if you want to go to university for something else, so be it. It will all work out. We just want to hire good people, and we'll train you to become a police officer.
Absolutely. And Damien's follow-up question to that is, will WRPS eliminate ATS testing?
Yeah, so those of you that are online, the question around ATS, it's applicant testing system. It's all tied to the constable selection system. We've recently made some changes, Damien. We still require the constable selection certificate, so the certificate of results, but we're not worried about the timeline. And so if it expires mid-year, we're not worried about that. We honor it for a full calendar year. Same thing with the physical fitness test. The province of Ontario is currently looking at the constable selection system and looking at significant change in how we do business differently. So right now, we're still requiring the testing certificate, but as the province changes and looks to a new recruiting process, which should be coming in either July or August, we'll reevaluate. We've made a number of changes internally to expedite our recruiting process, but one of the things we still ask is the testing process, because under the Act, there's you have to pass, you have to have it, but I think there's some changes coming to that. But we always will have some form of testing. Right now, we just don't have the capacity to do our own testing, hence we're still using applicant testing. So stay tuned, Damien. Keep checking online. And I also want to be very clear, if there's any systemic hurdles, for example, the cost of applicant testing or those types of processes, please reach out and we can assist with all of those things.
Awesome. Our next question is from Karen. Karen is from Cambridge, and she wants to know, WRPS recently posted tips to prevent bike thefts, and what do you suggest residents do to prevent thefts in Cambridge, and how they can install bicycle parking lockers?
Thanks, Karen. It sounds like an excellent question for Andre, who posted all of those tips. But on a serious note, I mean, bike thefts have been an ongoing issue. We have the most recent program, which is the SNAP.
Snap and save.
Snap and Save, thank you. I was going to say Snap and Chat, but I was thinking Snapchat. But the Snap and Save, so there's a couple of things, Karen, I encourage you to do. We accumulate and collect a significant amount of bicycles every single year. And when we take a theft report or a lost report, one of the challenges really is people don't have their serial number, and it's hard for us to find the rightful owner, et cetera. So Karen, you know, we can track consistently. If you have the serial number, we can put it on our information system. We're able to return it and track it in all those different pieces. You know, we're working very hard. You know, our divisional leadership team, Superintendent Hafner and the Core Division, Sergeant Rod Lewis, are working very hard around Cambridge thefts. We've made a number of arrests. We've returned a number of bicycles, but we're also working very hard with the City of Cambridge around how we change and move towards a cycling infrastructure where we limit the amount of thefts, but people also have the opportunity to install their bicycles, et cetera. So stay tuned, more to come on that. But we do encourage you, big piece, track the serial number, snap and save your bike, and if you see suspicious behavior, please call us. You know, often we hear, well, I thought something was odd, I didn't see this, I didn't want to bother the police. And we encourage you to call us consistently so we can do the work that we do. But I'm pretty proud. There's a lot of great work happening in Cambridge right now. The South Division and the South Division Core team led by Sergeant Rod Lewis, they're knocking it out of the park. They're doing some excellent police work.
Absolutely. Our next question is from Jeff, another recruitment question, Chief. And what is the age limit for an applicant?
Well, thanks, Jeff. So the actual age limit for an applicant is actually 18 years old under the Police Services Act, but you can't slide to the police college until you're 21. So it's a bit of a challenge. So generally speaking, most of the average age in Ontario right now we hire for males is around 28 years old. For females is around 27 years old. So what we're seeing is 90% plus of our applicants have some form of post-secondary education. So they either go to college, they go to university, some people do both. You know, that's sort of the minimum educational standard is a high school certificate. But the reality is most of our applicants have some form of post-secondary. So thanks for the question, Jeff. And I would encourage you to take a peek and encourage anybody interested in policing to figure out what it's all about. And more importantly, I want to emphasize, come to one of our recruiting nights. You'll connect with all kinds of police officers. You'll learn the ins and outs, the pros and cons, some of the challenges. It's a really good insight.
Wonderful. And I believe this is a different Jeff, Chief, but he wants to know what happens if you are now driving in June with February 19 stickers on your car?
Yeah, so the validation, you have to have upgraded validation. So you potentially, Jeff, can land a ticket for expired validation. Now the reality is you may have actually renewed your validation, but you didn't put the sticker on, which is technically an offense. But you would actually likely get a warning, and we would encourage you. You know, to get a new sticker, because sometimes they get stolen, they come off in the car wash, those types of things. Our officers are very diligent about that. And of course, we do deploy a number of police cars that have automated license plate recognition. And so when the officer's driving, there's scanners on top of the car that are picking up plates, and they'll figure out if it's expired or not. But we do encourage people to register. The reality is, moving forward, the province is looking at eliminating the val tag and just going to a validation, and so the officer, the stickers would be moved away. So there are some discussions happening right now at the province around that.
Interesting. Our next question is from Ethan, and Ethan is a buddy league, or in the buddy league, and is messaging just to say hi to you, Chief. So Ethan would just like to greet you.
Well, first off, thumbs up, Ethan. It was great to see you. Ethan had the best dance walking up to home plate. I'm not sure the song. I'll definitely date myself. It was a modern kind of hip hop song, and he had a dance going. But Ethan was a phenomenal young man. So the Buddy League is a league that's pulled together. It's an adaptive baseball league. It's coordinated by a great community leader, Cam Linwood from the GRCA, who wants everybody the opportunity. And so Miles is there in his wheelchair. There's a wide range. There's a junior league and a senior league. And I had the great opportunity to join Catherine Fife, our local MPP from Waterloo, and Miss Oktoberfest. We tossed out the opening pitch, and I stuck around and pitched for the first junior game. Andre, I got lit up like you wouldn't believe, home run after home run after home run. But the Buddy League is extremely important. And on that note, today was a very special day for me. Acting Sergeant Melissa Corey is our games manager. We're hosting the Ontario Spring and Summer Special Olympics Provincial Games in May of 2020. And today was our first kickoff meeting as we get the games going. The theme of the games is Go Beyond. And everybody in the Buddy League goes beyond. So huge shout out to my friend Ethan. I love the dance, and I'll look forward to seeing you in the summer when I come back to play with you and the team from Waterloo.
Awesome. Thanks for your message, Ethan. Our next question, Chief, is from Brad. And Brad wants to know, what are some of the other ways people can work in policing without being frontline officers? So are there any civilian positions that are available for people who are interested?
Yeah, well, thanks very much for the conversation, Brad, and the question around civilian professionals. So we employ almost 400 civilian professionals. We have 1,200 employees. 800 of those are uniformed members or sworn members, about 400 civilian professionals. And the reality is that they perform more than 73 roles within the organization. So they, from special constables to 911 communicators, to crime analysts, to corporate communications, finance, human resources, facility services. There's all kinds of different opportunities. There's about 73 different civilian professional positions. And I would encourage you, Brad, once again, to check out our website, wrps.on.ca, and provide the some opportunities for you to examine, and we do have civilian professional recruiting nights as well. I want to be very, frank, is that, often when people think of the Water Regional Police Service, they naturally think of the frontline officer, and that's at the root of what we do and the core of what we do. But we couldn't be able to operate without all the civilian professionals behind the scenes who love what they do and who are committed to what they do. From the health and safety coordinator to the maintenance person, to the special constable, to the forensic identification technician, to the transcriptionist in records, to the records clerk, to the CPIC operator, to the 911 operator. They're the glue behind everything that keeps us going and keeps us moving forward. And so I'm very proud of our civilian professionals. They do incredible work. They're great people, and they're part of the team. We're one team. We have one voice. We have one vision, and we have one mission. And so regardless of what you do in the organization, you play a valuable role.
Absolutely. Our next question is from Sarana, and she would like to know how many Indigenous officers are with WRPS, and is the number reflective of the Indigenous population in KW?
So great question, and in fact, we're working on this right now because I don't have the answer of how many Indigenous officers we have. We currently do not track our members through, racialized or equity. Only thing we track is equity, gender. And so it's a great conversation we're having. We know that in Waterloo Region there's around a population of 20,000 Indigenous persons. And so the work that Sergeant Julie Sods and Constable Eric Boynton in our Equity, Inclusion, and Diversity team are doing is right now pulling together an equity, inclusivity, and diversity plan. And one of the pieces that we want to do is a census to find out who we are as an organization. Because our commitment is around actually being committed to reflecting the community we serve. We know that we can do a better job. And so most recently, we've done some interesting pieces around Indigenous culture. We've had an elder at one of our police recruitment events and celebrations to share the knowledge of the First Peoples of the land, to do a smudging ceremony, to explain a number of different culture pieces. But also, more importantly, within our organization, we participate in local regional powwows. And very shortly, we'll be unrolling and unveiling in our court services branch. Our members who work in courts will actually wear the medicine wheel on their uniform. And that's around and designed to engage with Indigenous people that come in conflict with the law, so we can enhance and what we can do around diversion and actually rehabilitation and different processes. We know that Indigenous people are overrepresented in our judicial system. We need to do better. We can do better. And that's really the focus of where we're going. So it's a great question. Stay tuned. We're currently, we've done all the internal consulting on our equity, inclusivity, and diversion plan. We're now doing consultation externally. And one of those things we look forward to is an advisory committee around equity, inclusion, and diversity within our police service and how we train and our policies and procedures. And it's very important to the work we're doing. So it's an excellent question. Stay tuned.
Wonderful. Our next question is from Twitter. And Chief, what have you done about employee absenteeism at WRPS?
Yeah, so thanks very much for the question. Absenteeism is a challenging piece within not only our police service, but within the greater policing. The incidence of occupational stress injury and post-traumatic stress injuries is pretty significant. So we're currently in the process of revamping our return to work process. We launched a wellness unit where we have a dedicated staff sergeant that oversees the wellness programs, the wellness initiatives. We've launched a OSI and PTSD prevention plan. We now have 3 psychologists on contract. We've expanded our safeguarding program to ensure the wellness of individuals, and we're just rolling out right now a mandatory wellness check with a psychologist for every single employee. It's likely going to take us about 36 months to roll it out based on capacity and some of those processes. So we're very committed to that whole process. Underneath all of that, one of the key issues is that we have an unmodernized central sick bank. The central sick bank is a process that was used in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and is currently used, but it's not modern. And so we're working with our labor association around making change and looking to the future. But those are labor issues that we're dealing with. But it's also around creating a healthier workplace. We're not perfect. We're human, we make mistakes, the leadership team makes mistakes, I make mistakes every single day, the way that we manage and handle situations, but we're very committed to changing. We've also invested heavily in our human resources branch, and so we're adding resources. The Police Services Board recently expanded the benefit within the collective agreements around access to psychological services. And we're just in the process of implementing a new employee assistance program, as well as our peer support team has been totally revamped and built from the ground up. And so there's many different initiatives happening, but I want to be clear, it's not enough, it's not fast enough, and there's more to do, and we continue to move that forward. We're also very committed to a number of provincial projects. We've rolled out Road to Mental Readiness to all frontline members, to all supervisors, and now rolling it out within our civilians. But we're also tied to a couple of provincial initiatives looking at police wellness and protecting those that serve. That's one of our mantras. So I appreciate the question. On any given day, we average slightly above the private sector average of people that don't come to work, but we're working very hard, and we've actually had a lot of success in returning people to work. Most with the launch of the Frontline Support Unit, I think we're doing much better than we have in the past. But again, more work to be done. Certainly not perfect in our approach, but I think we're heading in the right direction.
So next, Jeff says that he was very pleased with various officers who attended an incident recently and that they were very helpful and friendly. Also, thanks for the service, for the recruitment efforts that he says are the best he's ever seen. So he says thanks for that and is wondering what you think will be the biggest challenge in policing in the next 5 years.
Well, first, Jeff, thanks for the question and thanks for the kind words. I think it's extremely important that our members hear that our community cares, that our members recognize that they're appreciated in the community. I have the good fortune to travel the region to many different community events, many different initiatives, and what I always hear is fantastic feedback about our members, the great work that they do. So thank you, Jeff, and I appreciate when people share it because it allows me to share it within the organization. Your point to the biggest challenge in 5 years, that could be the whole 60 minutes. The next 5 years in policing, Jeff, the reality is that never before has our community, has our society been under significant, rapid change. Social media has changed the way that we police significantly. More than 50% of all crimes that we investigate have some form of social media. Andre, you're here with a tablet managing this event. All of us have smartphones. But there's a couple of major things, I think, Jeff, that are going to impact us. One is, quite frankly, regional reform. When you look at regional reform, you know, what it looks like and how we police, the changes in the connections to public health and paramedics, you know, we have a good system that works here, but I think that the uncertainty of what our municipality, what our region looks like is creating anxiety and trepidation. The other piece is around funding. Funding is pretty significant. You know, we're in economically challenging times. Provincially, you know, we have some significant debt. You know, our region is extremely healthy with a small debt load. The police service doesn't run any sort of deficits or debt, but we're trying to make up $1 million that we lost through some provincial funding that was eliminated. So the financial and the economics of policing, Jeff, is going to be a significant challenge. But I think really, we talked earlier about this, what I view as the most complex and challenging piece is around addiction. It's complex, it's not easy, it's polarizing. We have people on this side, we have people on this side, and it's very complex. And I think that, Jeff, one of our biggest challenges is going to be getting a handle as a community on addiction. It impacts public health, social services, housing, and policing significantly. We work well together, but as you can see, you know, almost 500 overdoses, 41 deaths. We continue to see the impact, and it needs change. But there's lots of different pieces. Technology, obviously, is a major impact, the way things are changing and leveraging. And I also think, more importantly, the demographics. We're heading into some attrition and recruitment. And quite frankly, what we're seeing is less and less people wanting to be police officers, although we're making some ground up. But those are all the challenges. I can go on for 60 minutes about challenges, but Jeff, I see every one of these challenges as an opportunity to reshape our police service, to reshape the way we provide services, and to actually do it better. And so I'm pretty excited about the next 5 years.
Awesome. Brandon is just asking, will WRPS be enforcing new Transport Canada drone laws?
So thanks for the question, Brandon. As you know, new drone laws are being rolled out, requiring, depending on the size of the drone, the weight of the drone, you may need a pilot license, you need to register your flight plans, et cetera, those types of processes. You can't fly over crowds or encroach on private areas. But the reality is that although our police service is involved, we don't have any enforcement powers. Only Transport Canada actually can enforce the legislation. So we may get deployed or we may get dispatched, but the reality is we don't actually have any legislative authority to lay a charge or take action. We can report it, but what you can do, Brandon, is you can actually go online and lodge a complaint. So if you have an issue about a drone, Transport Canada does have a website where you can go in and leave all your information, and they'll investigate and come out and support you. But if you do have questions, I do encourage you to also check out our Twitter feed. Our remote pilot vehicles do have a Twitter feed at RPVWRPS, so I encourage you to check it out.
Awesome. So Chief, we are halfway through, so we want to make sure everyone continues to send their questions if you have them, and we are getting some really great ones, including the following question, which is from Damien. And Damien's asking, what can you do to improve roundabouts? He's specifically concerned with St. Jacobs.
So roundabouts, there's actually more than 73 roundabouts in our region. Our municipality in Ontario has the largest amount of roundabouts, and Ottawa is a close second. And so I think I just want to pause there for a second. I think we should actually be very proud of our regional approach around roundabouts. Roundabouts are designed one is about keeping traffic moving, reducing emissions, but also reducing the severity of collisions. And so typically where roundabouts land, previously there was T-bone or angle collisions, which generally the severity of injury is significant. So a lot of great things happening. The St. Jacobs one's one that I know well. I travel through it daily. And so one of the challenges we're having with roundabout safety and even enforcement is that the roundabout's not defined in the Highway Traffic Act. It's a fairly modern traffic design tool. But our traffic unit has been out doing enforcement. We also very much focused on awareness and safety and signaling and those types of processes. But we are laying a number of charges in roundabouts. But what we encourage people to do is head online. There's a number of videos that show people how to navigate the roundabout. And I think a lot of the challenges we see is lack of signaling, hesitation, and or not slowing down. They're designed to slow traffic to about 40 kilometers to navigate. But if there's nobody coming, the yield sign, for example, is simply that. You can keep going. But you'll see people stop, which results in a rear-end collision in some of those processes. But we're making movement, Damien. The other big piece that I will say, when there's a tractor trailer, particularly in St. Jacobs, we see a lot of farm implements and tractor trailers. Do not go in the roundabout with them. They need the entire roundabout. They're exempt from the Highway Traffic Act. They can straddle both lanes. They don't need to stay in a marked lane. They actually have an exemption under the Highway Traffic Act. And I appreciate that because I'm an old traffic officer, so I love talking about traffic stuff.
Awesome. Keep the traffic questions coming then. And from Twitter, are there any new challenges for the traffic division with the start of the ION, including aggressive drivers?
Well, really, the ION, thanks for the question. The ION really has been up and running, and what we're seeing is more of it. They've got, I think, all 14 trains actually going full-time now at all different hours. And so it's not so much that we've seen aggressive drivers. What we see is, once again, how do we share the roadway? So there's a particular stretch in Kitchener-Waterloo, where it gets a little challenging up by Grand River Hospital. We have some people riding on the tracks. In Uptown Waterloo, we have a number of cars that actually stop on the tracks. So, where there used to be parking now is a throughway. So those are some of the challenges that we're facing as we move forward. But we've had 3 collisions. We're working on an educational awareness campaign with the Regional Waterloo. And I can tell you in the next couple of days, we'll be launching a traffic campaign targeting the LRT railway to make sure that drivers are paying attention, that they're not turning inappropriately, because what we've seen is improper turns and then creating the collision. So we haven't had a significant amount of complaints. The reality is we need to address some driver behavior.
Our next question is from Zach, and Zach is wondering how many officers know American Sign Language?
That's a great question, Andre. Zach, listen, first, thanks very much. And there's a stumper. I don't have the answer to that one. I do know that we have a number of members that do know American Sign Language, but we also have a whole process where we have different services and availabilities. And one of the pieces that our Strategic Services branch is currently looking at is a card that the officers would have that they would actually share with individuals who are not able to communicate by voice and verbally. So phenomenal question, Zach. We also, as you know, through 911 have a specialized 911 system. As we move to NG, the next generation of 911, it will be much easier for those citizens that need help to get help. But I'm not sure how I actually figure out this question, Andre. I have to go to the team and figure that out. And so, Zach, what I would ask is follow our Twitter feed. And if you give us about 2 weeks, because we've got to do some homework on this one, I promise that we'll get an answer out. So thanks for connecting.
Awesome. Great question, Zach. Next question is from Julie, and there is publicly advertised illegal, unsanctioned drug consumption sites in Kitchener. Christine Elliott stated pop-up sites and tents will not be permitted. Local law enforcement is supposed to be responsible for these. Why is this not being shut down, and why aren't the people running it being arrested?
Yeah, well, thanks, Julie. I'm not aware of any specific pop-up sites right now. I know that there has been a number of tents and pop-up sites set up, and I can tell you that our police service was actively involved in investigating those and involved in looking at those, and quite frankly, working with the individual that had set them up. We deal a fair bit with a particular advocacy group that is very strong and feels very strongly around access to consumption treatment sites and some of those processes. But in reality, if you do have a concern or a particular place, then I encourage you to call the police. There has been different times where the advertisement has been that, and we've seen this, we do monitor social media, where it's somebody in somebody's house. We have to respect the Canadian Constitution. We just can't go into somebody's house if we believe, that there's something happening or those types of processes. But I can tell you specifically, we did have a number of tents that were popped up. We did investigate. We were there. We believe that there was no grounds to make arrests, there was no grounds to make charges or to lay charges. We continue to work with the individuals that are attempting to promote these. And quite frankly, some of the promotion is around raising awareness and advocacy to consumption treatment sites. I want to be clear, it's a polarizing issue. Our support as a police service is to the drug strategy, and so we're working with public health around the interim site that is coming up on Duke Street.
And Chief, our next question is from Twitter, and they would like to know, will mental health first aid be required for all new employees?
So we are actually looking, thanks for the question, we are looking at mental health first aid. So our members do go through a number of significant training pieces, et cetera, but we have reviewed a couple of specialized programs that are very much focused on mental health first aid. And it's something that we continue to explore through new employee orientation and for new recruits, et cetera. Our wellness unit is actually coordinating and reviewing that as we roll forward and to see how we can actually roll that into our curriculum. So at this point, we're not there, but we're moving towards it.
Great question. Next question is from Amanda. And Amanda, her son wants to be a police officer, but is concerned if it is dangerous.
Well, thanks, Amanda, for the question. And, Andre, maybe I'll throw this one to you. I mean, you've done the role at the Frontline. I'm sure, I know your parents had some concern, but sound training?
Sound training. So my parents, my background is Jamaican, and my parents were concerned as policing is different in Jamaica. Very different. So there were some concerns about the danger of policing, the danger of the profession. I think that they were at ease once, I got into some orientation as a new employee with training that we went through here before we went to the police college, and then just through the process, learning how to do the job, learning how to be safe, learning how to address those concerns and to deal with potentially dangerous or volatile situations safely. I think that they're a lot more comfortable with the profession.
Yeah, I think, there you hear it from a frontline officer. Amanda, I think the training in Ontario is second to none. The equipment we have in Waterloo and in other police services is governed by ministry standards. It's second to none. And the reality is that, obviously it's an occupation that has risk. It's an occupation that demands us at times to be involved in some very significant challenges. But overall, I do believe that, we have good training. We're committed to health and safety. We're committed to the best equipment we possibly can. We're committed to the best training. And so I think it's really a career, Andre, one that you can make a difference. But there is an inherent risk, and that's about preserving life and protecting others.
Absolutely. Our next question will be from our next question actually will deal with a discussion from Carol. Can WRPS afford the same million boost to the budget that Calgary had initiated due to the dramatic increase of crime surrounding their safe consumption site? And if not, what is the plan to keep the rest of the community safe?
Yeah, so as you know, we did have a team of members of our police service, the City of Kitchener and Public Health go to Calgary to visit the consumption treatment site. We've also visited the City of Guelph, we visited the City of London, the City of Ottawa around consumption treatment sites. And I want to be pretty clear. I mean, we're trying to balance the needs of everyone in this matter. We understand that it's a polarizing issue. We understand that people have very strong feelings around what's lawful, what's unlawful. The reality is that 41 people have lost their lives to addiction this year in our region. 490 people have overdosed. We have a significant problem on our hands. It doesn't lie completely with policing. We have a role to play. We have a role in drug trafficking and arresting. And as I said, our drugs and firearms teams are doing fantastic work. They're making more arrests, laying more charges, seizing more illicit product. And I can't speak to the specific Calgary budget because they do business differently than we do. What I can tell you is that our central division, where the consumption treatment site is landing, is currently working with public health. There's a report going to regional council. We will have a policing plan as to how we manage that. We will also work with public health around guidelines and when police are called, et cetera. And so we're trying to find a balance. We'll also hold a number of consultations in the surrounding area around how we can work together for a safer neighborhood, for a safer community. And we also, there's a lot more information about the Calgary data, that they released that we'll share in due time. I mean, we're actually building our policing plan right now. We don't believe that we're going to require, there is a significant investment that the board and the regional council made in policing for 2019. So we are adding staffing. We'll have a staffing model. We'll have a staffing plan. And if we need to rework and share resources differently, we will. But our commitment is to trying to balance both. We're trying to balance the needs of public health and a significant public health issue, but we also want to respect that people live in those neighborhoods. People deserve to live in a safe, healthy, vibrant community and neighborhood, and we will work towards balancing that. We have no intentions of tolerating any sort of illicit drug trafficking in that area around the site. There's a myth that there's this no-go, no policing zone. It's a myth. We'll be in this area. We'll be there on foot and bicycle. It'll be part of our downtown deployment. And so there's a lot of work to be done, but we also want to recognize that we understand the trepidation and the worry and the concerns about this. The other reality to this is it's happening in our communities right now. People are using publicly, people are using in public washrooms, people are using within the city hall washrooms, people are overdosing in those areas and public spaces, and so we need to take action. And I understand that this is a significantly polarizing issue, but I truly believe that we need to treat addiction as a public health model, and our focus has to be on illicit drug trafficking and those that prey on the vulnerable. Just today, we've seen a number of excellent arrests in our region for drug trafficking, and that's our focus. And we have dedicated our resources to those areas. Our break and enter team, as you know, Andre, I often refer to them as rock stars because every single day they're focused on crimes that are impacted, quite frankly, with a lot of tentacles back to addiction. And so we're working very hard and doing a lot of things, but it's a great concern. And as your chief, I want to assure you that as we roll this plan out in Central Division, there will be neighborhood consultation, there'll be neighborhood association meetings, and we will find the necessary balance to ensure the safety of that particular neighborhood.
Right. Chief, time is escaping us here. It's flying by. Time flies when you're having fun. Our next question is just, what do you love about working for WRPS?
That's a great question. Thanks, Rosalind. There's a lot of things I love about it, but first and foremost, it's the people. Every single day I'm amazed at the people that I have the privilege to work alongside of. Their commitment, their passion, the work that they're doing, the sense of energy where they want to solve complex issues, where they want to make that big arrest, where they want to make a difference for somebody. That's what I love. The other piece I love about policing is, quite frankly, I do believe we're making a difference. I do believe that society is challenging. We've got a lot of complex issues, but I do believe that every single day when we head out, we're chipping away at those issues. We're chipping away at those challenges. And I do believe that what I love about our organization, as I said, is people, the challenge of making a difference in the work that we do. But more importantly, what I love about what we're doing is that I do believe we're setting the course for the future generation so they can thrive in our region. And that's what it's all about, is leaving our community a little bit better than when we landed here. And I look at my tenure as I approach 30 years, a lot has changed in our region, and I do think that it's becoming better. I do think there's better opportunities for people within our community. I think that our diversity, we're much stronger based on how we're diversifying as a region and welcoming new Canadians in the way that we're changing doing business. But what do you love about it, Andre?
It's the thrill of coming to work and having a great chief, honestly, a great leader who does set the tone for the organization. We can hear you coming a mile away, bringing enthusiasm and passion. So it's just a chance to carry that passion out, to spread it not only amongst ourselves here at WRPS, but in the community too. So it's a great opportunity just to be a role model and to, again, ensure the safety of those who live in our region.
And I can tell you, thank you for the kind comments, but more importantly, thank you for your great work. You do awesome stuff, and as I said, I'm very proud of your work. I thought you were going to say you love doing WRPS talks and interviewing, but no. But a little bit of humor and a little bit of fun.
Absolutely. Our next question is from Baljak. There's been some discussion around policing utilizing their community partners, specifically correctional and CBSA officers, to assist with their staffing shortages. Is there any truth to those discussions?
Yeah, sorry, Andre. So are they talking about, I may have misheard the question here, are they talking about our service using corrections and CBSA, or?
That's correct. That's right. So using community partners like corrections or CBSA.
Yeah, so really the Ontario Police Service Act doesn't allow it. We're governed by legislation, there's specific training, there's specific focus, and so the only authority I would have to use in the state of emergency, I can designate auxiliary officers to have full police powers, and so our auxiliary officers can become police officers, but there's no intention within Waterloo or, to my knowledge, I'll speak to the area that I'm responsible for, to use corrections or CBSA, but we are always looking at different approaches, and so as you know, Andre, we've been modernizing the police service, looking at the real roles within the organization where you need police authority to do, and if you don't, then can we modernize it and transition it to a civilian professional that has the expertise and the longevity in that role. So thanks so much for your question, and hopefully that answers it.
So Chief, one of our viewers is wondering about the recent incidents involving shootings, and is there something we should be worried about?
Well, thanks for the question on the recent shootings. And in short, yes, I think we should be worried. I think we should be worried about the propensity of violence in our community. I think we should be worried about when people believe they can come into our region from externally, from our, they're not from our region, that commit these violent crimes. And so I'm very worried about it. I think we should collectively be worried about it. But I also want to be very clear that the incidences in Uptown Waterloo were specific and were targeted. And so, the sense of worry is very different because, unless you had some issue with a street-related organized crime issue, you're likely not intended as the victim. The death in Cambridge is tragic. It continues to bother me that in a community that I call home, that there was a significant violent crime that resulted in the death of a woman, and I think that we should be worried about. How do we land there? Is it preventable? Could we do business differently? Those types of things. I think that's my biggest worry is how do we, any homicide any shooting is something where we need to stop and reflect on how do we get here and how do we, tackle that. So one of the things we are doing, we are in the process of launching a precision policing plan, which will look at crime, public disorder, how we manage it, matrices, how we use more analytics. Our goal is to drive crime down heading into 2020. We've seen some consistent increases in violent crime, and I think that we need to take action. We need to take action. We have a responsibility as a police service to pull together a series of policing plans that look at firearm suppression, violent crime suppression, as well as property crime suppression. And so stay tuned. There's more work happening around that. Superintendent Chris Goss, who was at our Central Division, is being seconded to police headquarters for the next 4 to 5 months to run that project. And we're going to examine all facets of how we do investigations, how we communicate internally, how we prioritize our police investigations, how we share information with other police services so that we can do better. I think from a community perspective, my one ask for all of you is keep living. We're much safer when we're out in the community. We're much safer when our streets are vibrant. We're much safer and healthier when our kids are on our streets, when they're walking to school, cycling to school. Do not let evil and the darkness of some of these incidents overtake all the great things happening in our region.
So this is an email message, Chief, and Sylvia's asking, are you taking volunteers for the upcoming Special Olympics?
Thanks, Sylvia. In short, yes, we are. Stay tuned. Keep coming back to our social media and our website. Very shortly, we'll be putting together an online registration, an online connection to volunteer for the Ontario Special Olympics Games in May of 2020. So thanks, Sylvia. Stay tuned, and let's keep connected. And we're going to need, I think, about 500 volunteers to make this a success. So Sylvia, my one ask to you is get your friends together, watch our website, watch our public information advisories. It's coming out shortly.
Okay, so Chief, I think we have time for one more question. This question is from Jonathan, and Jonathan is wondering, can you tell us a little bit about the Citizens Police Academy? Yeah,
so thanks, Jonathan. The Citizens Police Academy is it 12 weeks now, I believe. 12-week program, went from 10 to 12, 12-week program. We do a fall and a spring session. They're on Thursday nights from 7 to 10 o'clock at police headquarters. If you check our public information and our media advisories, you'll see when we're accepting applications. And so you submit an application. We take about 50 citizens in each class, so we do about 100 citizens each year. We really look for a diverse mix of demographics and interests and all those types of things. And it's a great opportunity. Every 12 weeks you get to see an insight into our police service. You get to connect with one of our members. You get to see how we actually operate our organization, from our financial perspective to our strategic planning, to our public information, to our major crime, to our traffic unit, our special response unit. You get to see everything behind the scenes, and it's a great opportunity to connect and become an ambassador to the service. And even if you're interested in policing or if it's a hobby and you just want to learn a little bit more about the fine work that we do, I think the best thing about the Citizens Police Academy is you get to spend 12 weeks with members of the police service who are ambassadors, and you get to realize they're incredible human beings. And so they may wear a uniform, they may have a civilian professional role, and so you may see them as an employee of the police service, but at the end of the 12 weeks, what you'll see is that they're just simply a great human that cares very much about the citizens they serve, that also care very much about the community they live in. And I think that that's very important. So we're celebrating, I believe, 20 years of the Citizens Police Academy. So a shout out to retired Deputy Chief Gord Miller. It was his vision. It was his process. And in 1998, we launched the first ever Citizens Police Academy. Andre was still in elementary school, but I was there at the Citizens Police Academy, and we've seen it grown. When you actually think about that, more than 2,000 people have participated, and it's a hallmark program, so we encourage you to check it out.
Wonderful. Well, that's all the time we have today, but we just want to say thank you for joining us tonight and for making our WRPS Talks such a success. Stay tuned and be sure to follow us on all our social media channels to find out when our next event will take place.
Go Raptors, Andre.
Go Raptors.
Listen, if you're out in our community at one of the Jurassic Parks, please celebrate responsibly, cheer responsibly, and don't Raptorize our community. So have fun. All the best.